Bob is going to be giving a virtual talk on urban development in the West End over a 400-year span on February 29th. Our next tour, which will actually be a tour in the non-fallen metal, will be a women's history tour of the West End. There'll be 2 days for that, March 20th and March 23rd. And then we also have a very exciting live musical event happening in this room on March 30th, which will be Barbara and Beethoven to the Webb's photographic collections, live classical music responding to the West End Museum's photographic recollection of her ritual. These can all be found on the event section of our website. I also just want to point out this event is part of the African American Academy's BRL 86. On February 1st, 1983, a map was issued that would mark the neighborhoods of Roxbury, South End, West End, Hyde Park, Dorchester, Madison, and White is still resident. Today, 86 years later, hello, welcome in. We're just getting started. 86 years later, the Boston Redline Black History Month event series revisits all these neighborhoods, offering a slate of 10 events designed to explore and celebrate the rich history of each community. I encourage you to go to the African American Academy's website to find the upcoming events that are still on this series. And just for those who just filtered in, thanks for finding us here despite the winding path. I was just saying that the first half of this tour, which is looking at 19th century African American history in Boston, was originally going to be a physical tour, now a virtual tour because some metal slabs are falling off the building, so that path is blocked. And so we're going to stay for now and do the tour virtually. It'll all be the same content, and it will still point out all the locations of the West End. All right. So just for a little bit of an overview, this event's going to move chronologically. So I'm going to start for about the first 45 minutes, giving a virtual tour of the West End and African American in the 19th century. From that, I'm going to pass it off to Marlon, who's going to move us into the 20th century and talk about the history of redlining in the West End as a continuation of that history. Without further ado, thank you all for being here, and I'm going to start doing our virtual West End. So just as some background, beginning in the late 18th century, local Black Americans on Belknap Street, first unity together as a community standing Black church in the United States, school, we now, and many others are in Boston, it was by allies Harrison and Charles Culver an important artifact and seminal book on this is the study of the 1800 excerpt from our book, the lighter kind of what you will call the black film. The dark kind, the layers will register and darker surface or more colors. This is and then the darker the black so sociologist Cromwell in her book found in the 1860s out of 261 black people living in Boston, 1,595 of the black was about 6%. Black Westenders primarily on what is now many different professions, from laborers, sailors, writers, leaders, servants, doctors. Before we get where I also think it's important to know what the West End means in that equation. I know a lot of you are here. The North South who are going to talk about this and talk about the West End. The urban this area very now is part of the West End, to the North Slope, prior to it being absorbed by and that's where a lot of Americans kind of highlight key influential, associated with that institution, which tell you a bit about their lives. As you can see, all was not the North Hill, but was in the historic. And I'm going with the Ethan Meeting House, which you can see here is the weird star. I recognize it from today. The African Meeting House is the oldest standing Black church in the U.S. It was built in 1806 by 3 African Americans and has served various functions over the years. After it was built, it originally served as the home for the first African Baptist church, then housed the African school, before the Abel Smith School, we'll talk about a bit, opened next door. More broadly, it also acted as a community meeting place for political activism and cultural life up until the end of the 1800s. Through meetings and speeches, the house hosted figures of anti-slavery, women's rights, and civil rights movements, including Frederick Douglass, Maria Stewart, William Lloyd Garrison, and William Grinnell, who we'll talk about later. Became a synagogue in 1904, and then in 1972 was purchased by the Museum of African American History, who own and operate it today. And a key figure associated with this meeting house is Chris Hall, who is a leader in Boston's Free Black community and one of America's vocal early abolitionists and advocate for Black education. He was born in 1735 in the British West Indies, and little is known about his early life. We do know that by the 1770s, Paul had become a prominent figure in Boston's Black community, working as a peddler, a caterer, and a leather worker. We also know that he dedicated his life to advocating for African Americans, particularly their education, on both the state and the national levels. He fought for a higher quality education for Black children, petitioning in 1787 and 1800 for a separate Black public school in Boston, as Black students faced racism in majority white schools. When the state refused to fund a separate public school, Paul and his allies founded the African Free School in 1798, which first existed in his son's basement and then moved to the African Meeting House in 1806. Notably, while Prince Hall in the late 18th and early 19th century believed that separate schooling was necessary for Black education, the next generation of Black settlers that we'll talk about in a bit, like William Grinnell, fought for the exact opposite. They organized to end school segregation and were against enrollment at all Black Abel Smith School.
What's your nation?
Yes.
Okay, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Does that have anything to do with his point of view?
That's an interesting question. He was one of the first Black Freemasons in the U.S., and there are still of masonry throughout the U.S. that are named after him. Prince Paul Masonry. He's also a property in
So basically, he was about also part of the revolutionary movement
exactly. Yep, regiment. Yes. And you can see also some kind of background, which shows he's still really important today. All right. Yes. Okay. So as I mentioned, we're moving on to the Abel Smith School next, which as you can see is directly next to what we just visited. So the Abel Smith School was the oldest public school in the United States that was built with a singular purpose of educating Black children. It opened in 1835, served as a segregated public school for Black children in Boston for 20 years, and retired after the moving house we just talked about. The school, which was both overcrowded and underfunded, would become the central location for the Black community struggle for equal school rights in the 1840s and 1850s. which brings me to Sarah C. Roberts, who at the age of 5 would become a central figure in a lawsuit against racially segregated schools in Boston in 1847. Roberts was a Black girl who lived with her family in the North End and was forced to walk past 5 public schools before she reached the Abel Smith School, as she was not able to attend the whites-only school that were in her neighborhood. From 1844 to 1846, Black families petitioned Boston school committees to shut down Abel Smith School and integrate Boston public schools, as Black schools did not receive adequate funding. Then, in 1847, Benjamin and Adeline Roberts, who were Sarah's parents, decided to enroll the 5-year-old at Otis School, which was a whites-only public school that was next to their home in the West End, or in the North End. The Otis School initially admitted Sarah C. Roberts, but when their parents attempted to enroll her brother, the 9-year-old Benjamin Jr., Otis School decided to expel Sarah and had the police remove her from the grounds. In the lawsuit, Sarah C. Roberts was represented by Robert Morris, one of the first Black men to be a practicing lawyer in Massachusetts, as well as Charles Sumner, an abolitionist and a future senator for the state of Massachusetts. Morris and Sumner presented many arguments for their case, particularly highlighting Massachusetts' constitutional guarantee of equality under the law. Yeah, this might help. Yes. You could see it. Yeah, that helps. Perfect. Yes. You can see here to the left is the court case with Charles Sumner. So Roberts lost the first case and appealed to the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. Again, Chief Justice Shaw ruled against Sarah Roberts, saying that Boston's public schools have the right to classify people based on race. The ruling of Sarah Roberts versus the city of Boston will become infamous later because it was applied as precedent for Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896, which declared that separate but equal schooling was constitutional. Despite this ruling, Black families continued to challenge segregated schools, and Benjamin Sr., the father, would go on to join forces with William Brunel. We'll talk a bit about later, but William Brunel had vowed at a young age that he wanted to hasten the day when the color of his skin would be no barrier to equal rights. Keeping this promise, when he reached adulthood, he began to lead protests against the segregated Abel Smith School. It would take years, but after countless protests, court cases, and then finally a statewide petition, the Massachusetts legislature outlawed public school segregation in 1855. On the day before the first day of school that year, Nell, who lived at Smithport, which we're going to talk about next, was across from the Abel Smith School, said he heard a young Black student walking by and say, "Tomorrow we're just like the other Boston boys." After this, Smith School closed briefly and then ultimately reopened as an integrated school. All right, and we're going to move on now just across the street from where the African Meeting House and the Abel Smith School are, to the Smithport residences, which you can see are the as the maroon stars right across the street there. Most notably, you can see it's the yellow house when you're walking down Smithport. Nowadays, by the Museum of African American History, the wooden house across the street. So 6 of the homes on Smithport, which face the African Meeting House, this school house multiple families and boarders, and offer a really interesting snapshot of 19th century family life and jobs and activism for the Black community. For example, we'll be clothing dealer James Scott, as well as an historian and education activist William Brunel, who did the Smithport. And then you'll be able to see here where my mouse is, but right next to that, at 5 Smithport lived George Washington, not the president, but the waiter, who lived there for most of his life, as well as mariner Peter Gus and Chitty Sweet Joseph E. Scarlett, who lived at 7 Smithport. You can see some of their names here as well on this. intellectuals and individuals. William Brunel lived at Free Smith Court. He was an abolitionist and an education rights activist who was born in 1816 to three African American parents who lived at 64 Kendall Street on the North Slope. He attended the African Meeting House School, and as mentioned in 1844 and 1845, petitioned the city, along with other Black West Enders, to abolish segregated schools. After this request was denied, Nell became a key figure in the movement that resulted in the state legislature abolishing school segregation, making Boston the first large U.S. city to integrate public schools. William Brunel was not a lawyer. This is actually this shot we see below is from one of his books. He's considered one of the first published Black historians. So that was one of his. So Nell often wrote for William Lloyd Garrison, the Liberator, helped edit Frederick Douglass's papers, and went on to become a historian. He wrote Services of Colored Americans in the Wars of 1776 and 1812 and 1851, which in Nell's words was to showcase Black American patriotism and bravery, which was a much neglected department of American history. In 1861, Nell was nominated by Boston's federal postmaster for a court position, which also made him the first Black person to serve in the federal civil service. All right, and now we're going to move, sticking on Joy Street, which is then Hotel Map Street. We're going to move to 81 Joy, which is where Marie Stewart lived. She was one of the, notably, the first American woman of any race to give a public address. She was born in Hartford, Connecticut in 1803. Her parents are unknown, but we know that she was orphaned at 5 years old. And then she worked as an indentured servant to a minister for 10 years and taught herself to read and write by sneaking books out of his library. Maria later moved to Boston and married James Stewart in 1826 when they moved into 81 Joy Street on the north slope of San Francisco. Maria Stewart became an active abolitionist after joining the Massachusetts General College Association and also regularly attended meetings at the African Baptist Church and the African Meeting House. Significantly, her intellect in writings impressed William Lloyd Garrison, who published Stewart's writings in the Liberator in the 1830s. She also became the first African American woman to publish a political manifesto. Two of her pamphlets, published in 1831 and 1832, titled Religion and Pure Principles of Morality and Meditations from the Pen of Mrs. Maria W. Stewart, were particularly popular and helped her to launch a speaking career. In September 1832, Stewart spoke to an audience, including men, at Franklin Hall, where the New England Anti-Slavery Association met. In her speech, she discussed the structural oppression of Black Americans in both the South and the North. Stewart's speech at Franklin Hall in 1832 was one of the first recorded cases of any American woman, Black or white, speaking to a public audience. Notably, her powerful thinking and speaking style would also go on to influence Frederick Douglass, Turner Truth, and Frances Ellen Wilson. Right, we're going to move on to our next stop, which is the Lewis and Harriet Meeting House, which is on 66 Lewis. So Lewis Hayden was an escaped slave, became an active abolitionist, and helped other escaping slaves through the Underground Railroad. He was born in 1811 in Lexington, Kentucky, but it's unclear exactly where he was enslaved and how he escaped with his future wife, Harriet Bell. Once he arrived in Boston, he visited the Boston Anti-Slavery Society office, where he was encouraged by other abolitionists to take free night classes on Belknap, later Joy Street. He also joined in efforts to raise money for assisting enslaved people escaping the South. By 1850, Lewis and Harriet Hayden lived on 66 Phillips Street and turned their home into one of the state houses along the Underground Railroad. That same year, Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Law, which jeopardized the freedom of formerly enslaved people in Boston by forcing state authorities to return escaped slaves to their owners. In response, Lewis and Harriet Hayden joined with fellow abolitionists to create a vigilance committee. It was the third and the last of its kind in Boston. This organization was dedicated to providing a safe haven and material assistance for enslaved people who had escaped from the South. That wraps up our virtual tour of the West End. So if there are any questions, we can take them, and then if not, we can pass along to Mark, who's going to lead us from the 19th century to the 20th century.
I was kind of intrigued by the way that the North Slope of the Coast History
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of other history buffs know why, but how did they kind of shape out the neighborhoods? What were some of the factors that influenced that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this, again, that's the map of the historic West End. You can see that both this part here and then that part here, we don't currently consider it the West End. So that lasted until urban renewal, when this area here was part of the area of the West End that was demolished. The north slope of Beacon Hill was saved and not demolished and absorbed into Beacon Hill, as well as that part there, sort of the upper half of the Golden Triangle, which was absorbed into the North End, which was originally slated as well for demolition, but the North End was saved. And so this part was demolished, this absorbed, and that absorbed. But yeah, so the majority of the Black community that was in the West End during this 19th century period is on the north slope of what is now Beacon Hill and the historic West End. Yeah.
The building that they lived in, Phillips Street, you said,
Yes,
is that?
it does. It's still around and it has a placard on it
Okay.
that explains it a bit. Did you ask me a question? Oh yeah, he was asking if the period meeting house, Elizabeth House still existed. It does. It's Phillips Street and it's still standing and it has a little placard on it. Yeah.
I just wanted to add two things.
Yeah.
One, that the Boston Museum has a wonderful collection of paintings by
Yes, very, yeah, very native, started out.
Her very paintings.
Yeah.
Collection of photographs of African Americans from that time period. And also, do you know why Black people were living in the West End as it related to the Old West Church?
That's a very good question. So you're right, more than about 60% of the total population of Black people lived in the West End, and of that they were concentrated on the North Slope. I think part of the reason is there were so many Black institutions in the area, so people that were coming from other areas, and they meant for people to talk to the isolated society that indigenous people to settle on Belknap Street or North Street because of that community, and also there being the first Black church there, and a school that accepted and was a Black women's school. So I think part of it was that people originally settled there beginning about 1780 when some of the community there that when people came from elsewhere, whether it was the West Indies or the South, when they went to, for example, the Boston Slavery Society, they did encourage people to take classes to live on Belknap Street.
I just asked because I heard oral histories of enslaved Africans being sent to Nova Scotia through the Underground Railroad that was at the Old West Church, and then when enslavement ended, they came down from Nova Scotia back into the neighborhood. So I don't know if that's true or not. It's, I'm just
So that's very interesting. And we'll
everybody
get
else
to that
knows.
more.
Yeah.
Yes. What,
So,
go for it.
so
Absolutely.
one I would recommend, if you guys have a chance, there is the Black Heritage Trail. And if you want the national, NPS, the National Park Service, they give free tours starting at the Massachusetts 54th Memorial in Boston Common. And you can do that, I think they're Saturdays. You can just Google it and look it up and sign up and they're free. And then from the 20th to the 29th of this month, the African American Museum of Beacon Hill will be free. And there is also another museum located on Nantucket Island.
If you don't do the walking tour, you can download the app and do it virtually.
Yes. Great tour. Right.
Why
Yeah.
is Temple Street shaded in pink?
Sorry?
Why is Temple Street shaded in pink? It's the only street that's shaded. Well, the stars, and I was trying to correlate the stars, but that one street.
No, I didn't.
And I
That was
wasn't
the
sure
one thing
why.
I did not make was the pink line. So I'm unsure about that.
Okay,
That's the
Yes,
next
there's my
okay, just curious.
answer.
So no reason.
First flash.
Just a clarification, so did you say 65% of African Americans live in the West End in this time period?
Yes, in 1860, there were, I have to go back to the stat, about 2,200 Black Bostonians, and 60% of those lived in the West End. All right, I'm gonna give it away to Marlon, who's gonna keep walking us along through time. 19th century.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I apologize for not going on the tour. We had so many of you guys sign up that we were like, we didn't want to risk all there's a lot of construction going on, and we definitely didn't want to risk anybody getting hurt. So we apologize for that, but we'll definitely try to make this up as we move on into the future. So like she said, it's almost time I gotta give this. My name is Marlon Solomon. I'm the founder and senior project engineer at the African American Academy. We're a local nonprofit here in Boston. We focus on restorative project management, cultural diversity, equity, inclusion. So basically, I study redlining, urban renewal, and the communities that existed in these locations prior to the urban renewal. All right. So this is, we're talking about communities and how they live culturally as well. So we have a lot of books there. I was preparing for this, but instead of preparing for this yesterday night, and the book for the West End is still on my table. But there are a lot of books there, the Green Book, and we have a petition that was signed. This is part of the Boston Redlining 86 Black History Month event series. All right, now like she was saying, this is part of the Redline map, right? And on February 1st, 1938, the Redline map was issued. All right, so I'm very proud to say that. I was like, that's the beginning of Black History Month. Let's use that. I'm sure the people that did the math appreciate it. All right, so that was 86 years ago, and that is what Boston Redline 86. Now my study, the premise of my study basically studied the relationship between land, culture, and law, right? Land is the primary driver of cultural development, right? I mean, it was like clam chowder. How many of you like clam chowder? Right. Why is clam chowder associated with this location? Because of all of, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, the great clamming areas, all right? So it's the only reason why we know about clam chowder is because of our location. Now that clam chowder means that it's just not gonna jump on our plate by itself. It's not gonna walk onto the plate and say, how you doing? Bye. It's going to be the process. There's skills that the people in this location learned in order to be able to turn the products, these into products and services. You have to know how to drive a boat. You have to know how to clean boats, work on engines. You can't do that, no clams chowder, right? So these services now mean that we have skill sets particular to this area. I find it hard pressed that anybody in Arizona would understand how to do like this. right? So that's why land is the #1 driver of culture. So therefore, law also affects land. Right? The state of Massachusetts, you go to New York, there's another set of laws. You go to Canada, oh my goodness, international law. You gotta show a passport. So if the laws are now in a way that either retard or propel culture, I mean, you know, we can retard or repel culture. So let's say I was able to remove climate change this time. All the clams disappear. Then the skill sets of the people here are now all of a sudden irrelevant. And you're no longer able to make clam chowder, you're no longer able to make the money from the boats, because there's no need for the boats. In fact, this is happening right now with climate change, with the snow. There are a lot of people that used to have snow plows. You guys like the blizzard of 2024? Right. So this is a relationship. So we can design culture into the infrastructure and produce. Boston has a lot of schools, so we have a lot of educated people, right? Put a lot of gyms. You have people with six packs. You know, but again, you take out schools, you take out learning spaces, you start getting a more uneducated population. The population now starts looking for other ways to make money, because remember, their skill sets are now irrelevant. They may start turning to crime. Or let's say there's no clams, we're going to go to Connecticut, we're going to go to war over their clams. And this is the story of a lot of the wars that we have now going on. Culture, land, law, intersecting and not working together. With Russia and Ukraine, we say that that's part of their culture. Israel, Palestine, India, and Pakistan and Kashmir. And there are thousands of examples all across the world of places where the lines do not fall in congruence with the culture. All right? So I'm not gonna, I have a lot to do. So actually, I extended the slides because I knew that I thought we were going to do little 30-minute segments, and we have gone overboard. So let me just go on. So what is the red line map? The red line map, people think it's about housing. Throw that out the window. What it's really about is this is a cultural diversity map. It shows where people live and how much they make. So what I mean is there's Armenians in there. There's well, obviously black people, Negroes, it says Negro infiltration, Italian, Irish. That's what it does. It's a survey. That's what it does. And what's the purpose of this survey? The purpose of this survey is to show people, to basically influence the design of city expansions and highway development for the next 30, 40 years. Who created it? The federal government. All right? And it's primarily about race, but it's really about class. Because at that time, Irish, Italian, Irish, Italian, Jewish, they were not considered white. This is 1938. Okay? So they identified where all the people were, but of course, African Americans is the primary source. But that is what the initial thing is done. All right? There's a lot of things that happen with the infrastructure because of this whole map. 1961, the zip code was in place. Think that the zip code is so old. Nah, it's 1961. Before that, no zip code. And they did this in the 30s so that they could develop the zip code. So the zip code is the grid that this map describes. All right. Now I told you that we've been in we're going to be in 4 locations. This is the 3rd one. The first thing we were at. All right. So we were in Nubian Square, Dudley, Roxbury, South End. Last week we were in Dorchester with one of the Jewish temples. A big intricate relationship with the Jewish community. I'll show that later. And then we're here in the West End this week, and then next week we're going to be in Hyde Park because Hyde Park is actually a little bit after because there were racial confidence in that area, I wanna go to the community that will get to that, but that's why there was a lot of racial violence around the Hyde Park High School. We're gonna be marking 50 years of segregation of Boston Public Schools. Next week, symposium, got elected officials coming, Maria Mejia, Enrique Pepe, and some other people, but let's go into the show. All right, so what happened in these 4 communities? Well, we already know the story of the West End. The West End was demolished, I have great pictures coming up. But then we have the South End. South End was destroyed also, right? 8,600 African Americans, 2,600 families, about 50 square blocks leveled to the ground. Jewish community, they were yellow line, all right? And we're going to go into what that is. These are a set of policies. So there's redlining. We kind of look at that, but the Jewish community is kind of like the anti-Semitism version of redlining. So that this is not usually talked about because the redlining kind of takes the book, but there's a different set of policies for that. And then finally, like I said, we're going to be in Hyde Park, where this is where the segregation broke. We had a lot of first time touching. Now, this is how extensive redlining is. There's no city in America, it's a federal government program. Basically, they say, hey guys, you have any areas that are lighted? And then you send in pictures. I've been to the archives, so I've seen the pictures that Boston sent. And they send in pictures, and then the government gives you money to level the place. I think Boston paid $75,000 for the leveling of the West End and the South End. The federal government takes care of 90%. This is a federal program. So every dot you see represents an African American community that was leveled to the ground. Every yellow around it is class. So probably, well, I won't say that. Red is class as well. So you have places like the North End and the West End were redlined. Okay? But if you had a little more status, and we still don't like you, then you were yellow. So that's what, and this represents, and this I call this the most important book in African American history, the Green Book. This book details, we have one right here. This one details, because pass around all this book as well. This book details the safe spaces in my people and during segregation. This book is primarily responsible for the whole dissemination of jazz. We love jazz music, right? Well, the jazz people had to travel from the South. And they weren't traveling, it wasn't safe. They're like, so that book is so important, but it also details every one of, there's a guy that did a study, and basically everything in the Green Book was leveled by the urban renewal. These are cultural hubs, entertainment districts, like the Apollo Theater, like Motown, like the Strand Theater. If you look at the job of the Strand Theater would tell you that between the 60s and 70s, there was 10 years that they had declining TV sales. Well, yeah, of course, if the community had been leveled to the ground, then of course there's declining TV sales. All right, so the infrastructural history of the West End. Let's go into these real quick. So this is a map, and this is the reason why, this is what I scanned, that's why the West End book isn't there. But this is the West End, this is just a series of how the roads look. This is the old famous Scully Square, right, with the statue, right? Notice all the trams and trolleys and everything, right? But then things change, right? So this is from Segregation by Design. He did one of the first events with us, and this is the central artery, the building of the central artery, that basically divided the north and the west end forever. All right. So the north end is over on this side. On the other side, that's North Station. So we're somewhere like right there where the end is on the north. And then this is one thing I always like to show is like that's the Haymarket. Like, it looks so pretty. But yeah. And then they leveled it. Approximately like 20,000 residents were displaced all along Greenway. All right? And remember, when I say people displaced, please remember these are families. Okay, like let's try. I don't want to. When we throw out these numbers, sometimes it sounds like they're just numbers, people displaced. No, these are families. These are brothers and sisters. People going churches, schools. There are people that I've met in the South End that their school doesn't exist anymore. They can't go back and say, oh, hey, I'm going back to school to see my old school. The school's gone. Right? These are some pictures I got from the archive. I just think I just like aerial photos, just showing a little bit of the old. That's a Bangor Hall, Messy Market. I think that's the common right there. No things changed. Right, we got some other photos here. Pretty much same thing. We're showing a little bit of the infrastructure. Boston. Right? I like that you can see that. Things have changed, right? What are we doing? You got the Sephora right there, whatever, right? Yeah, and like I said, this must have been so iconic. You know? So iconic. That's the market. That's the original version. So it's been there for since the beginning of Boston, that little road. So just to see it now that it's gone, I'm like, wow, they really wanted that highway. Recognize this? Right, Liberty Hotel, ironically named. I love whoever thought about that, marketing genius. So we've done the Liberty Hotel there, right? Built in 1851, originally had 220 cells, 8 by 11. Not very big. Not much Liberty, you know, I know 8 by 11 space. But you know, you can see the little differences, like the little something there. I guess a little bit ornamental, but for the most part, it looks the same. Well, obviously, there's no wall. Hard to get clients with wall there. But yeah, that's a little bit about the little infrastructure history. All right, so now this we get. So we just kind of been going a little bit about what was there. That's sort of they actually call the Central Artery destruction to be the part one of the big dig. All right, so it's not like, so imagine that, like how many years Boston we've been building stuff. They took between, like Back Bay took between 1855 and 1900. So that's like 50 years. And we like to build stuff. But anyway, we like to tear stuff down. So this is the West End, right? When I saw this picture, I was floored. It's like this was like the Hiroshima for Boston. When people saw this, people were shaking in their boots because, I mean, Scully Square is gone. Where I grew up is gone. My family. And that's what that root shock actually, if you read that book, that was a good book, because it talks about how people, like, when they lose their locations, their homelands, it's as if they lost a family member, they grieve. Okay? So this is some pictures of the before and after. You can see Mass General there, before the extension. There's our beloved Liberty Hotel, corner there. Some more demolition pictures. That's it in the back of the other one. This one is in the front. They literally scrape the streets. They scrape the streets off the ground. So this is a guy that apparently is very responsible for a lot of it, named Jerry Rappaport. And this is featured in with JFK and Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of the congressmen. Basically, there's a lot of controversy around his philanthropy because it said that a lot of money for the construction of the location for people. Basically, this is eminent domain. We've heard that term before, but eminent domain means that a private government can take your private property and give it to another American. All right, so I'm just trying to make sure that everyone is. Yeah, go ahead.
So, the federal government and the city decided that the West End was going to be demolished. Very Rappaport built what was there after.
Right.
Didn't demolish.
Well, yeah.
I just want to make that.
No problem. I guess what I would say with that is you're very right. It's just that it's like, right now, the policies of the city of Boston are to build more residential areas because they know they have people that want, developers that want to spend. So they're driving, and I know, I'm not trying to say that, that he said this is what happened, right? I'm just trying to say that this driving and being the one that is like the main guy behind it is money. Money talks, right? So I hear you. I appreciate that clarification. All right. So now, where would the African Americans we're gonna follow? So remember, we've been in here, West End is 60%. In fact, 70% of in between Cambridge and the highest amount of African Americans in 1938, percentage-wise, was between MIT and Harvard. 70% is called the course. And the reason why it existed because obviously the people there used to work for MIT and Harvard. So let's follow them. All right, so the good one to follow is the 12th Street Baptist Church. They moved down to South End in 1907, and they moved into the former Jewish Temple, Michigan, at 47 Sharman. So this is from the Atlas School. So you can see in 1899, Congregation Michigan Tequila, 1931, 12th Street Baptist Church. Same location, right there. And actually, right now, it's a residence inn. Isn't that nice? Very. All right. There's a couple of murals there called the Love Story mural because that location is where Martin Luther King met Loretta. Right? So that's where we actually started the first walking tour was at that residence inn. Like this, and we'll get into all the reasons why and all that a little bit later. So let's look at the community. Now, one of the things that I found very difficult is finding pictures, and that's why I went to the archives, is finding pictures of the community that lived there. I was not able to find a lot of that. And because I was not able to find a lot of pictures there, because the pictures at the archive are for demolition, so they are looking for blighted areas that look terrible, so they can destroy them. I'm an engineer, like I said, by trade. Art isn't my thing, I mean, I like music, but I don't know art. This is the first artist that I really understand why. He gave me a glimpse into what these communities look like. And I have nothing. So I teach young people. I have my Northeastern students, and I have some Northeastern students in the audience, but I also teach kids 14, 15. Like one of my, hi Maya, she's operating our computers right now in the live stream. But yeah, these students, they've never seen these communities. They do not, you're asking kids of today to say, hey, do the right thing. They've never seen it because the right thing ended when these communities were leveled to the ground. All right, the sense of culture, community, and being together, how a community works. These communities are fueled by the jazz trade. So like for African Americans, our primary cultural artifact is the ability to play instruments. We're just great at it. We redefine music for the 20th century. There's no, I always say when it goes to music, hands down. I just give you Michael Jackson. Just one. Then before we get to Aretha,
I just wanted to say, there are photographs that are from this time period. They're at Northeastern University in the Lower Roxbury Black History Project. And the main photographer, I have to say her name, that represents these same photos of the same era that Crichton was working. Her name is Winifred Irish Hall. And she grew up in the neighborhood, right at Northeastern.
All right, sorry, that's your saying.
Say her name again. Winifred Irish Hall. But there are literally hundreds of photographs covering from about 1900 to about the mid-60s that were collected as a part of this project.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Because in 1972, they passed a law saying that they could not destroy anything. And when I went to the Historical Society of the South End, their records start from 1972. they're not very interested in learning it.
If you have like personal photos,
Yeah, but then you have to, that's an infrastructure that we need, I would love to, work on, yes, definitely, like personal photos to get these young people to see these smiling faces. So this one is called Back to School. I actually had an African American lady that grew up in the community told me that this reminds her, so what happened, they would send the young mothers, of course, they weren't dressing up because they get to go out, and they'll pick up all the, so all those kids may not be their kids, the kids of, the older mothers who had worked. So traditions, these things were all destroyed. When I tell kids this, they go, huh? Really? Yeah. There's a parade. You don't know what that parade is about, right? I'm sure, these are just a collection of some of the ones I like, right? That's about the participation, kids playing in the streets. So this is a community that was destroyed. It's not just, you can see some of this work at the Boston Museum. They have a lot of this work there. I take my youth there in the summer. What is this? Wally's Jazz Cafe. I was just at the event for senior citizen appreciation. Wally's trying to take them back to Wally's Paradise. Wally's Paradise is what it was called prior to eminent domain when they were forced to move across the street. Someone told me about it, how she did it. She said, Dad, why are we gonna move somewhere else? Can we just move across the street? She said, that little place. She said, yes. Because when they come and said, where's Wally's? Oh, yeah. She has a much better way of saying it. But yeah, that's Ellen Paul Frank. So, and that's what it looked like on the other side of the street. That's the jazz bar, the Boston Jazz Carnival. All right, this picture actually is this is very painful to me because you see the Madison Park Technical Vocational School is actually on a location because this is called Play at Garfield Street, Madison Park, Boston. So that school is on top of what used to be that playground. So, I don't know, the metaphor was. All right, this is Dudley Square. This is the Dudley Street Baptist Church on the far, right? So in 1963, see there, we can, you can see the street goes actually straight. That street is also cut up. These are the existing buildings, the yellow markings. That is gone. Now there's a library, courthouse, and a police station where a church used to be. But you know what was in that church? Grandmas with the PTS. Those grandmas. You don't need all the courthouse. You don't need any library. You don't need any police station. Because KTS is just that's what keeps kids in order. And so yeah, they used to be out there with their big hats and stockings all Saturday, and it was destroyed. That actually the train right there, the elevated rail going to Forest Hills. That was called the South Loop. This is just a little bit down the street, across the street from the current Baptist, the Street Baptist Church, and it's now a parking lot. Yes, that parking lot is very important. That's the building there, and this building. So this is the only building. This is the only picture I got from the Boston Archives that has. You can see these young black kids there. They all obviously going to destroy the house, and that's the only one. That's but the only reason why the city. See, when you go there, I didn't realize. Learned that when I got there. They said, "No, you have to understand. The city took these pictures for a reason, like an infrastructural reason. They didn't just go around snapping photos of people. So they were going to destroy this house. So these are the only kids I saw. This was in Washington Park, not necessarily close enough. All right. So what are the ripple effects in the other lining urban we're going downstream? I might need time. I'm good. All right. So the number one thing that I found with the design of Boston, so I studied all the maps, I love maps obviously, and I studied the system. See, it was actually to me more equitable to get around back then than it is now. All right, and a lot because the city is naturally designed for these trolleys. Anytime you see a road that's wide enough, there was a trolley. This trolley used to go down the street, go, the back end of North End. That's the North Loop. So like you used to go all the way around the North End, the orange line. So that road is a little wider, like there's nothing wide in the whole of the West End, the North End. You notice, except for this road. That's why. All right? So, the removal of the trolleys, and this is, I got this from, they have a great exhibit at the Leventhal Math Center at Copley of transportation. But this is how much transportation was. This was the train route. The red is the train, the blue is the elevated rail. So that would be so this is like grade A, like the T, and then the trolleys are like the buses. Right? Now, what does this do? Remove, I mean, if you guys know a little bit about Boston, this is Mattapan, Franklin Park, Dudley. You can tell the big stops by the amount of bus lines. In fact, funny enough, see, this is the 32. This is the bus is called the 32. So it's the same, they didn't even change the name, they just changed, they just put the route in there. So now, all right, so the African Americans now, they moved down here, right? I'm about to show you what happens to them. But this is their world. You can get from Mattapan to Rosendale Square in about 15, 20 minutes. Now to get on the T, I'm going to tell you why it's important to focus on the T, because you have to go all the way to Ashland, come up, change it, downtown cross, go to the Orange, come down here. Oh, you're not done yet. You have to take the 34 down to Rosendale Square. So we've now gone, so why was this done? Why would you make it harder to get from Mattapan to Downriver Street to Daly Square? It was to maintain segregation. Because segregation isn't putting up walls, sometimes it's taking them away things. So you can just make it difficult. Moving places takes money. If I have to move from point A to point B, right? If I have to move from point A to point B, you know that the average person does not go over half a mile outside their daily trip. The daily trip by engineering is from your workplace to where you sleep. Because out of that mile, you're taking away from rent, you're taking away from food, you're taking away from other things. So you're not going to move out, you're just going on this way. So whatever food is on that line is what you're going to eat. All right? So this is, I'm going to introduce you, this is one thing I'm doing my paper on, that's what my students are working with me this year on, is, I got other ones, I got all right. This is Cyrus' first invention. This is the first one. So, is the Boston Wishbone. What is the Boston Wishbone? You heard of the Boston Neck? Yeah, Boston Neck, okay? So basically, Back Bay was water, South Bay was water. There was a thin line down Washington Street, and that is what they call the Boston Neck. So I'm introducing to you the Boston Wishbone, which is a natural line through Washington Street, going through the Neck, going through Dudley, and without these two, it feeds the whole south part of Boston. I'm talking about the real south, not South Boston. I'm talking about iPad. I lost all my eyes about at least 2 years ago. And then and going to Forest Hill. So what it goes when it goes to Dudley. So it goes to Dudley and it divides into Forest Hills. Goes to Mattapan, feeding the southern part of Boston, and more importantly, feeding the largest landmark that Boston has, Franklin Park Zoo. This is why UT is important. Tourists don't take the food plate. That's a bus route. So we will never be able to achieve any kind of North End status where people are coming and dropping money, or Chinatown status, or Cambridge status, where people are coming in for tourism because they can't get there. But if you went to Franklin Park Zoo, which was free at the time, you have to get a hot dog. You're gonna be hungry walking around and seeing all those animals. And who's gonna get that money? That community. That's what a cultural hub is based on. Bringing people into the community. Now you say, well, Marlon, you say it's racist. Boy, how do you know this? Now this is the area that Black people could buy. Everywhere outside that area, people of color could not buy. This was the Lieberg map. So this is what redlining means. So basically they say This is what they told you, yes, this, that you can buy homes. You can only buy homes here, and guess who lived there? I finished on this. The Jewish community. So that creates a pipeline, right? It's not like you can, there were racial covenants in Eastern Dorchester, Quincy, Milton, Hyde Park, Jamaica Plain, everywhere around, people of color could not buy homes. So that funnels you into one area, and black people have been collected there ever since. I use that word on purpose. That's why it went from the red line map shows my financial data. Milton and Mattapan in 1938 were making the same amount of money. The Ponce River is one of the great, I say, it's the scariest walk in Boston, in 1 minute walk in Boston. Why is that? Because the geographical feature of the Ponce keeps the redlining stark and clear for everybody to see. In all these other parts, you can't see because it muddles with urban, the color redline sprawl. And it muddles, so you don't get to see, oh, it doesn't, well, it's kind of, maybe it's just because, I told you, land shapes culture. So that's why that river has kept the clear design. You can walk from poverty to seeing a Benz in less than 30 seconds. We're not talking about some new money. We're talking about institutional, Curry College, Harvard, that kind of money. And that's what exists right underneath this area. So when black people are only put there, and remember, now they've taken out all the transportation in this place. There's no way in, there's no way out. Unless you use the bus, and we already described, you know how it is. High class is commuter rail, middle class is TT, low class is the bus. That's how the system, you can stratify without, you see the walls, are not those segregations, not walls. It's infrastructure and giving pathways. So you're not saying what the commuter rail goes to these communities, because the commuter rail does actually go through all these communities. But the commuter rail only comes once every hour and a half. So if I'm trying to get to work, woe is me. And that is how they keep people in one area and keep another people in another area. All right, that's the little superimposed. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to comment on what you said about the transportation piece, because I'm actually in Dorchester, and we fought hard for the Fairmount Street Red Line on the party.
Right.
Many of the mini stops,
Right.
many stops on that rail line.
Yep.
Before they put kind of transition, we put the stop houses, we fought, they're back in, but we looked at, you know, the fact that our neighborhood follows that.
Right. Right. You know, one of the great things about my work is that I don't have to explain much because y'all know it's true because y'all been there. I have a cousin. He worked in Bernstein's. You know, they make a bunch of money, but he used to say, "Man, I love your work because your work is out there and you can see it, touch it, and taste it. His work is beautiful." You know, so I always think, but it helps me. So when I'm talking and giving these kind of talks, I don't have to really say much. You know what I'm saying, but you guys have been there, right? So if Rosendale Square is actually, there's a T line going there. The businesses are not fueled by that commuter rail. Nobody goes on the commuter rail. Commuter rails are even the suburbs coming in. Inside the city, even though in zone 1 and zone 2, you can't use your choice card. A lot of people don't know that. I wonder why. All right. So now now we're gonna get into some more interesting stuff to do with access. Now, down here, they were driving, knew this area right here, going to Walpole, that's 95, intersection between 95 and 93. All right? You guys know that area? The south, around the T. Okay. So, this is the route of the highway that they wanted to build to connect 95 to 90. All right? So, when you look at all this side of Boston, that's why we have that windy road around Olmsted and all that, because it wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be a highway. Can you imagine a highway going through Jamaica Plain? Basically the orange route. They got the right of way. They leveled the places, and that's why the African American community and where it's gone, because they leveled the place and they never built the highway because it got stopped. So this is where like Manila Pass is like northeastern. So the highway was supposed to go up through Monte, go down Hyde Park Ave, right? Hit Cleary Square, go along the commuter rail route, hit Forest Hills, go along the Orange Route. So anything on the Orange Route was supposed to be the line. Get here, intersect, and go to Back Bay. So land into Back Bay and join I-90. Now this is the more interesting one. This one right here. So this is the one that went to the African American community, leveled it, went round. Now this was going through my dear sister's school, right? Going through, it was supposed to go through Northeastern. Really like to the Museum of Fine Arts, there's a highway above there, cut through BU, and then go at the place where 70%, I told you earlier, 70% of African Americans live in between Cambridge and MIT. Ironic, right? And then it goes all the way for it, and then, hey, having fun, having fun. When was that done? So, yeah, and then this one goes to LY. All right, that would have been, had it not been for a group of people in Jamaica Plain that fought to get that stopped. But nonetheless, the African American community was already gone. Like I said, 8,600 people, 2,600 families, 50 square blocks eradicated. The Boston part of the Chitlin Circuit gone forever. A community with, there was a place called Jazz Alley, where just like the North End, Tremont Street, around Northeastern, the Slates is still there, Bob the Chefs, which is now Daryl's Corner store, and then of course where I showed you Wally's Jazz Cafe. Wally's Jazz Cafe is the last pure remnant. So please go and check them out. Drop some money there. One of the things that we're going to be working with them is trying to help the music. Because our community does no longer drive jazz. We created something. What I'm talking about is very serious. Please take a few listen. It's like Haitians making chicken fried rice. It's like Nigerians making spaghetti and meatballs. What is happening in Raleigh Jazz Cafe is that it's being fueled by purpose. And that's fine. We want everybody to learn. But if you invent something, it's yours. It's your cultural artifact. You don't have the spaces to practice it, which is what happens. It dies out in your community. And the reason you say, well, Monolith could be just technology. Well, I'll just tell you that we're not the only group of slaves in this northern hemisphere, or the ex-slaves, sorry. There's Haitians, there's Jamaicans, there's Brazilians, and they have land to do what they want to do. And their cultural artifacts are way, way, way higher, because they've had the opportunity to pass it to generations. This area, this 100 years between 1865 and 1965 is the longest period that African Americans were allowed to form in the history of this country. So when the urban renewal hit here, yes, it's bad, and I'm not gonna. This is terrible. But Italians have been around since birth. Their culture is great and strong. Ours was just developed. Just getting. I mean, think about it. Blues, jazz, rock and roll. They're getting mad at Beyonce for making country. What do you think invented? Who do you think taught them to play the guitar? We always have a great guitar. This is who we are. Jimi Hendrix, B.B. King. If I go on and on, we will never finish this. We always have great musicians. I'd say the last great one grew up in these communities, but in the late 80s it starts to die out. And that's not Prince. And you know what he was fighting for with his tap hand was him breaking the mold while people mobilizing and monopolizing on music. He never got to make money. The only money we made was in these communities. Now, I told you it was a Jewish community out there. These are some of the artifacts that they left and what happened to them. So yellow lining, just really briefly, was basically a set of policies designed to get Jewish people out of where they were. Why? Because they already owned their property. So the real estate people didn't make any money off. So they funneled the black people into their community. Remember, any place you can live. That's what the death of American Jewish community is there, right? You funnel them in, and then you pit them against each other. So there was stories being told, and like poor African Americans being paid to do terrible things to Jewish rabbi. There was a story they threw like powdered acid, paid a guy, some people on the road, some stuff that no little kid was ever going to write. Within a month, the whole congregation moved. Jewish people, they would say things like, this documented, they would say things like, Jose Cho, you know that woman, the black woman that's moving into the community, her brother's getting out of jail and he's a rapist. You want him living around you? And this propaganda was now scaring the Jewish community to such a high extent that 68,000 Jewish people left the Manhattan area in a year and a half. Think about that, 68,000. This is not like today where 68,000 is like just like Dorchester. This is everything. That's a lot of people back then. All right. So and I always tell people because I've been doing work with the Jewish community, and there's a lot of guilt in there, and I'm like, you don't understand the pressures. What happened was that by the time they took out those trolleys, your businesses were not doing well. Remember, that's what was happening. They took out the trolley lines. So you have Franklin Park Zoo. Remember, it's got a golf course, it's got a zoo, it's the biggest landmark in Boston. No way to get there unless you have a car. In 1938, the money starts going down. And then I gotta send my daughter to college. And then they put in the black folks are not moving in, and then it's causing trouble. They just seen trouble fomented by the realtors, blockbusting. Which is what blockbusting is. Blockbusting is trying to put a black person into that community, start scaring people to sell because they need it, and then they're selling them and also selling them where they're going to. I got a nice house for you in Sharon. I got a nice house for you in Brookline. So that is a different set of policies that I call yellow line. That was done as an anti-Semitism, because in fact the golden period between African Americans and Jewish people was in the 60s. It's called, recognized as the golden period because of all the civil rights movement of the Jewish community that been fighting. A lot of the Southern Jewish community, well, what I mean, Southern, like the Confederate States was kind of segregation of the South. And the Jews in the South were less likely to talk out because they would get retribution from the Southern white folks. So there was a big push and everything started working out. And this very process is the reason why I believe today where the communities are. They used to get like that and after that. This is not me talking like secondhand. She told me her first job was with a Jewish butcher. He would give her meat every weekend. And that meat actually ended up causing problems in her household because her father would even have her trying to bring them back out of expensive. Food insecurity during segregation. Although we did eat way healthier. That was before the fast food came to these very communities. 2 to 3 more times fast food are in these communities now than it was when these Jewish temples were being funded like Jewish people. You say, well, that's just private. That's just private. That's just private stuff. Private. What do you mean? Well, then how did the North End achieve it? How did Chinatown achieve it? No fast food there. You know where the McDonald's is in the North End? Yeah, but there ain't one. So how do they do it? Isn't that private property? Isn't that private business? Isn't that capitalism? When capitalism moves too fast, it is exploitation. That's capitalism, but it takes a long time to build businesses and people and connections and churches and networks. It takes a long time. So I'm very capitalist, but you just gotta slow down. You gotta go at the speed of trust. So I think I'm almost done. Yeah, so finally, like I said, the situation around Hyde Park was that, and most of the segregating. So we've now gone across the red line. We're now in areas that were being protected by red lines. These are the outside of the areas that we were living by. That's why there was a lot of issues around segregation, violence around segregation, and things like that. Because this was the first time cultural diversity or any kind of diversity was happening in these areas. But let me be very clear, Boston is a tribal place. Hey, when you want thing, don't go to Charlestown. Am I lying? All right, if I'm lying, I'm flying. Right? So I would say racism is a lazy man, but no, cultural diversity is just lazy racism. I know we're not a tribe. But there are still components that exist within communities. I'm half Nigerian. You know, there are parts of the other tribes that have been warring for years and years for the same reason. We're never gonna like them. And they're never gonna like us. So I want to make very sure that there are cultural differences that make people go against each other. But in America, we're the only country that defines people on race. It doesn't work in Africa. It doesn't work in Europe either. White, can't really figure it out. You want to know where they're from. This goes back to the land. Where you're from, that tells me about your climate, what you like to do, whether you can swim, whether you can dance, whether you like going on walking tour in 29-degree weather. And so I just want to be very sure that people understand that I do look at cultural diversity as a more refined way of looking at differences. And when you look at culture, you can also look at the way people are. Okay, all right. You can also look at the way people are, and you can make inferences. Like spaghetti and Nigerian food, it goes because you have this rice and stew, and it looks, that looks the same. Or there's African, it's called akara in Nigeria. Akara in Nigeria. And then in Brazil, it's called acarajé. In Haiti, it's called akara. In America, it's called lagami. This food moves along, and you can start seeing these things if you look deep enough. All right? But in Hyde Park, they haven't had none of that. So there was a little violence there was problems going on, but it was because of the racial conflict, which still exists in the deeds. Did everybody know what a racial conflict is? Maybe I'm just saying it. So basically, in the deeds of the homes in Hyde Park, there were clauses in the titles that said, don't rent, don't sell to a person other than Caucasian. That didn't work, but some say only to white people, and like Caucasian. They say Caucasian, they don't need you. It's true, right? So these are the things, and these are some of the things. So next week we will be at that very school. I have some great guests coming. Pepe Louis Finfer, who is on Mass Action for Justice. He is a freedom rider, not a real one, but he's been in the struggle since the civil rights movement, and with the New Entity Busing Initiative. And we got Judge Robinson, Martin Jackson, and yeah. Also, I want to direct your attention to the petition. We have a beloved community petition. So in my studies, I said, what did education look like for African Americans before segregation? And it has a lot, and I had to account the informal learning spaces like the jazz clubs and the churches. That's where we had access to history. That's where Aretha learned, was in the church. So if you destroyed a lot of the churches, like a lot of the busing that we're talking about, because they had already knocked down some schools just 5 or 6 years earlier. So there was more need for black people to be in school because they didn't have enough space because it was just knocked down. So there are a lot of things that go on with that. Vocations in the school. Back in those days, you could get a carpentry or plumbing certificate from high school. It started as Uncle Practice with Uncle Willie. Everybody got an Uncle Willie. All right, and then then there's community-based solutions like civil rights. A lot of the self-organizing that we did back there. I'm gonna be doing a workshop on, I'm gonna be doing a workshop on what I just kind of told you, how about cultural diversity, because if you're living in a culture, you don't have to like learn about it, but because it's been on so long, we have to start knowing the tenants, getting these music spaces together so that people will come into our communities and fund them, just like the chip was so the whole. Then we got a bookstore, and I think that really covers it. So, if there's anything you can take from this, like I said, understand that the biggest thing that happened since slavery is this urban renewal. It happened to all of us at the same time, all at the same time, all at the same period of time. And when you look at the civil rights movement, oh my goodness, that was great, civil rights, what a great thing, you guys achieved equality. But the communities that fought for civil rights were not there to vote. That's why there was no big influence like during the Reconstruction of black politicians. Because they simply just were not there. Like the Strand data said, oh, it's the declining ticket sales. That is exactly what happened. So we must understand that everything that we're living through today, from the mass incarceration, the gerrymandering, everything is built on infrastructure. If you were born in a hospital and urban planner said, you get to be born there. We're here, I'm a civil engineer, trust me, I get it all the time, I'm gonna get mad, y'all. Y'all don't appreciate us, right? You're in a room, it's air conditioned, it's got lights, it's got internet, it's got all this, and we're all here worried about what I'm talking about, and not knowing how y'all feel if that pole was in here. Would we be able to have such a great conversation? No. So the infrastructure is the number one thing driving any kind of equity, and if you don't fix the equity of our design, poverty was created by these policies. Because this was rich, now it's poor. Do not put transportation that tourists will go on to Franklin Park, the southern part of Boston, that never would come. That's I put my professional word on that. All right? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Questions? Concerns?
You touched on it briefly, but I asked my last question. No, I'm a new West Ender. I've been here 27 years. I've documented the life here for 16 years. Well, for the 27 years, train tracks, conventions, sports events. But the question is, back to earlier, you know in what way the Eisenhower Defense Highway Easement signed in 1956 fueled this federal demarcation of, redlining. Was fueled by the redlining maps, because I had just seen across the country where every time there was urban renewal, it also meant there was a new highway. It didn't go through here, but it did in most other black and across the country.
No, there are parts of this United States of America that get traffic today in Atlanta, particularly, not because of this, because they never designed the highway for optimum traffic. It was designed to go through a community. If you see the one of Overtown in Miami, huge place. The thing literally like the sign of the cross is just goes right through both ways in the middle, split, boom. So the spur, I think, is part of the bigger. I think it's just part of the bigger momentum. Remember, this map was around 1938. There was no highways then, and then it just comes, and then they develop. They take a whole generation to develop out the zip codes, work everything out, put their system in place, and then probably what you did is like for funding or some highways in particular, but any city expansion, with flower works, obviously, you have a place and then you have the people next to it that are working in it. And the place gets bigger and those people are in the way. You have to get rid of them. And that's kind of how
For example, I come from California and the 210 highway goes right through what was the heart of the black community in Pasadena
Right.
turns and ends and never goes through the wealthier communities.
Cross Bronx, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying, like, when you look at the locations and, okay, out of all the locations that the highway went through, which ones were African American? It is, I mean, you would have a better chance, I would want to do it, but it's not possible. It's on purpose. It's not just, anybody that looks at it, they got, this, you know what you're doing.
So that's what I'm a little bit confused about, because I've always known that, but this data I didn't realize was developed, as you said, in 1938, before highways and cars were, really a common, like, before we foresaw the future. And the Federal Highway Act, we didn't see that coming then. So I sort of always thought that the redlining, I saw them as connected, but they weren't really. So I guess I'm kind of asking.
What was connected, sorry?
I saw the redlining, the efforts around redlining as connected to a way to define where to put the highways and knock down the vehicles.
Yes.
And I see that later on, they used the data, but what was the initial impetus for it? Because we didn't see that the highways were coming necessarily.
No, well, they did, because when was the Ford Company started? The highways were developed so that, and the way the city was developed was to sell cars as well. So, they did. But also was driven by this big influx of immigrants. And I say that word a little bit with a caveat, because there were immigrants from the South running away from the Confederate States of America. All right? I think it's like all of the states that broke away from the Union also voted against civil rights. Okay? All right, so this is not, let's keep it real here. This is culture, right? When we talk about culture and attach the land, that land has the people that's what they do. Okay? So the same senators, the same locations have been voting the same way, and the same ones doing voter suppression today. All right? So that's what it was. There was the 1921 Immigration Act. So there's a big influx of people from Jewish people, from running away from fascism. There's a lot of African Americans running away from fascism in the Confederate States of America. So there's all of a sudden people in Boston, oh my goodness, where are they coming from? Back Bay was built because of the potato famine, and the Irish were coming in, and they wanted to keep the rich, the 1776ers here in Boston. So they built this luxury Back Bay so that they would keep those people here while they. So this is what I'm just trying to point out. This is, Nikki Haley is doing a good job. It's literally America is sorry. America is racist. The people don't have to be racist. Let's be very clear. But it's 3/5 of a human being is in the Constitution. It doesn't get more. That's our foundational document. All right. And when we look at it like that, but it's important to understand that so that we can do better. It's not about lying that it's not as bad as it is, so we can pretend that we're doing good. It's about let's be real. We're all human beings. Every square inch of this Boston was designed according to that map situation. That's the data. I didn't make it up. You saw the map. You said we talked about the highway going through every black community.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that regardless of whether we really foresaw highways or not, it was recognizing that the people at the time wanted to identify the places where they were going to develop,
Right. Right.
these neighborhoods in a specific way.
Like for instance, look at the West End, the jail, is right in between where the place that's still there. Because the people in Beacon Hill kept the people that lived here in the Liberty Hotel. That's how it's developed. You put this police. I learned this from Nigeria because in Nigeria the landscape of colonial is the same thing. You have anytime you have a GRA, which is the government regulated area, which is where white people stay. There's always a country club and a police force next to it. A place where you can play and be safe. Somebody will be safe to play. Always these are the dynamics. And So what I say is, that, like I said, there was a conflict going, okay? There was racism going, anti-Semitism going, anti-immigrants going, and just like there's anti-immigrant now. And anytime there's an influx, there's a study that anytime there's an influx, but even black people, anybody coming to your community, start hunkering down as a unit to protect yourself against whatever's going on. That is just natural human behavior. But that's what was happening, and then what they realized that they could do, we always know this, that the black state is a lot. Like if they just stop one thing and we get better at it and put it out in another way. This to me, right, to me, I say this is even worse than this. The slavery, you know your enemy, you know the person that's doing something to you. And it's the first time. If I get injured and I'm recovering from my injury and I get a second injury, what's psychological? The second one is way more damage. Plus this one, I don't even know if somebody's doing it. A lot of the reason why I'm doing what I do when I do my talks is because Black history is never looked upon this lens of infrastructure destroying every community that you ever had. It's got to make a difference. You can't just be like, oh well, there's a documentary, Uncle Tom 2, and it's pretty. The guy is like, I don't remember all what he says, but he contrasts the communities that were church, driven and wholesome, and like the ones in the Green Book, and contrast them to what's going on now. But he kind of looks at it and he's like, this is what happens in our community. If you're in a community trying to run, trying to get better, trying to do what you need to do, and then you do it and you do it and you do it, and then you don't get nowhere, you start internalizing that you're just not good enough. You start internalizing that you just can't make it. There's something defective within us, and it's not. I tell you as an engineer, it's not. You can have a farm. The farm has great soil, great seeds, loads of sunlight. But if I turn off that water, you can do all the great Black Lives Matter, all the programs in those communities all your life. But I turned off the water, the plants will not grow. And that is what engineering is. That's what removing that orange line from Roxbury, from Dudley to Roxbury crossing and cutting out all that cross pattern. That's what that did to that whole area. From Dudley all the way down to Mattapan, that's the cup. And until you put, because remember, the city is designed like this. This is not us making it up. That's why I love Boston. You can't tell me not then, because that's how the city is designed. It's designed like that's why it's the Boston neck. It was like that. So if you take away that design, if you do not, make sure that water is flowing into that community, then there's no equity. There is no equity in all your, and I don't think people are doing this purposely. I think that it is, like I said, with everything, civil engineers are very not appreciative. Anybody?
It's just, back to the other two, so two thoughts.
Go ahead. Pretty get away.
1938, and then you had mentioned Eisenhower, the interstate development of the people. In that period, it's like 17 years, interrupted by not COVID, but World War II.
World War II.
Right. So like, like I was thinking, like, oh, we couldn't have, yes, it's connected. And then the other piece is like the interstate to go through places why, right? Like it was, commercialization of everything, right? Like capitalism to everything. That's what we're pushing to.
Right.
Really get it, get goods back and forth, get farm produce back and forth, so you can have your California food in Boston, not your gardens and your, what I mean,
I agree.
local kind of, food security that we had, or
Right.
foraging, or whatever, so,
Right.
I don't know, it's just like, sometimes it just feels like, that we're being, like, there's a public answer,
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and
I agree.
but, and then also that the time compression, the time is so short, that the window, like, it seems like, oh, 1930 was so long ago, but then even in the framework, it was less than 20 years. So like from now to, like, what's your little girl in the school, and she's 62 years old, like,
Right,
oh my God,
right.
67 years old.
Right. My mom grew up in the segregated South. I got it.
Yeah, I don't know, I think this is excellent, this is what I need here. Don't go on the orange line, you don't go to Rossford, you don't go to Academy, hold on.
Yes.
You know, but it's like, you know.
Last week, sorry, Trevor, but last week, my student from Northeastern, beautiful India, doing his master's. I'm not gonna put him out, but, he's been here 6 months, but was told not to go to Dorchester. So what does that do for our businesses? How are we gonna ever get out of anywhere if you guys 6 months, literally off the boat? Different, slang boat. But, and he's already been told that. And then, okay, I'm gonna go to Dorchester, and it's hard to get there. So, and then, so I don't think that's remember, this is a system. I think what I can bring to the table, of course, the cultural piece, but just to put the layers, because it wasn't just the infrastructure, it is the realtors. Redlining is sort of like, in a war, you send in the airplanes, they bomb a place, then the troops go in. The troops are the realtors, or in this case, the redlining depresses the price. It attaches my skin color to property value. And with the propaganda machine, that's the other element of it. Propaganda, it still persists today. I come from Nigeria. I lived in Nigeria. Like I said, my mom's from Virginia. My dad's Nigerian. And they'll tell you, oh, my Nigeria is dangerous. But I can go to the most dangerous street because I'm from there. I say, boy, how far? What's going on, my brother? The other guy there said, this guy, are you one of us? I said, yes. Right? And I mingle. People in Haiti, they any Haitians in the house? Right. They say, oh, Haiti's dangerous, but I'm sure you can go where you need to go. The hood is always given this kind of boogeyman narrative, and we have to fight that, guys. Yeah, I'm sorry. I used the word guys, I'm a little older. So any other questions? No, I don't think there's nobody behind us. I don't have questions for anybody. Go ahead. Questions? Great questions, by the way. Great questions. Going once.
Oh, sure. I was talking about the scale one. Is that like a piece of equipment? Is that like part of the accepted?
No, it's not widely accepted, but it's just that, just like a lot of other things, it's not, I feel like it doesn't give enough freedom because they're not the same. Redlining is eminent domain, no choice, no ability to do anything. It just wipes you out, right? And it's just that grade, just like the beginning of the map, where it has grade A, grade B, grade C. So there's yellow and red in the redline map are negative. But one is caution, one is danger. So one has to do with the fact that these people are educated. They have, they're educated. They have money. They have lawyers. You can't just go in there and just do what you want. So you got to find another way. These other groups, and it's not just, like I said, they were probably Jewish people, Italians, like I said, the West End, right? Parts of Roxbury Crossing, because it was Irish, right? They got leveled, but they didn't have any voice because they didn't have any money. It was 1930, it's like 1950s, it's back now. You didn't have no chance back then, So it's a different set of policies with realtors, and like I said, multiple layers of systems acting on the same population, applying pressure so they would move and sell. So white flight is not a thing that is actually, I wouldn't call it a real, like an inherent, we just woke up. Anything you know about Jewish people, they love their land. My family actually, funny enough, comes from Lebanon. So that's in the south, not a very Nigerian, right? But look at these buildings. You're gonna leave that? As a builder, those people are there to stay. That's what that means. This Twin Towers, more Twin Towers means the builder not only gonna do it once, I can do it twice. That's what it means. And that's what that building is. It's a postcard. And you can see that there was actually buildings then, and now. But yeah, so they were not, these three, 1, 2, 3, are like within, like 5 minute walk, those of us that were there last week's tour. These are villages. These communities were thriving. Why would they leave? Why would African Americans go from church and music to crime in the 80s? Just all of a sudden we lost our mind. We fought for civil rights, got the civil rights, decided, oh, well, you know what? Let's just change life of crime. No, that's not what happened. The communities, the income. Remember I started talking about this, that we get that if you design, remember the place was designed for music, bringing people into the community, the chitlin circuit, right? This is the main driver of our communities. All the Black Wall Streets were basically driven by our artifact that nobody can get nowhere else. If that's the issue. So now you destroy the community, right? So now we're in projects. All of a sudden our skill sets are irrelevant. There's no place that you go to come to the projects to come and listen to people today. So we start rapping on the corner. Hip hop was created. Hip hop is 50. It's like the segregation of hip hop. Same time period. This cultural change can't just happen because we just decided to lose our minds and just change after 300-400 years. And remember, like I said, the other slave populations in Brazil, they didn't change. They still have their instruments. They're still doing their thing. Where's African American place in Boston? How? Where you can get soul food, jazz music. There is none. So it's 1627 what we got in there. Just decided not to take the culture. Right? Or was it here and it was gone? It was here. South End, all where Northeastern is, all around Mass Ave. It was here. So we have to understand that these infrastructure changes are they drive culture. They create poverty, they create crime, lock people up to crime, create a welfare state separating, that thing happened in the 70s, separating the father from the household. They're erasing our history now. I saw a funny meme. The guy said that the people that threw rocks at Ruby bridges, the grandchildren they don't want their grandchildren to know that they threw rocks at Ruby bridges. Right? So yellow lining is a different level of cultural, based on the people. When you design things for people and you design things for culture.
First of all, thank you for showing, presenting all this to us and inviting us here today. This is all very relevant to all the work that I've been doing over the last probably 7 years or so. I've lived my entire life in Boston, living around the very buildings on this slide, so
Yeah.
This hit me like to my heart. And I personally have been investigating the connection between art and everything that you just spoke about. Right? I used to teach a class in 2017 using artivism, specifically in Eggleston Square. And I've talked about everything that you just spoke about today. Right? Everything that I tried teaching my students when I was 21 alluded to all of the information that you just discussed. It's really great to see it all perfectly packed.
I think and the perspective of infrastructure. I think the perspective of infrastructure is what I heard. You know it. We all know these things. Now I didn't tell you a lot of things. I can tell you. You already knew. You knew that you could walk from Mattapan to across that bridge to Belton. I didn't tell you that. I didn't invent that. You know that.
Yeah, no, just for the add-on to the point is, when you were talking about the Cambridge area, where the black population mostly lives, like that's where I grew up as well.
That's where you grew up?
Yeah, so
Nice,
it's just kind
nice.
of like, whoa,
We
like.
want pictures.
So it's just
Because
really
people
like.
were dispersed. It was like a dispersal. You don't know where.
Yeah. And it just like made me remember like things that disappear and just like how there's no more black hair stores and like Cambridge anywhere. And then how like just like it was one big store in Central Square, then it was to the side of Central Square. They got smaller and then no one knew where it was. But then they couldn't keep up with the trends and then it just disappeared. The only place I can go get stuff in my hair is going on the #1 bus, going to Boston, and for outlet. And it's just like I don't know, it's just like it's just really nice to see that, like, because this is all done on purpose, like, you can purposely do something to
Right.
work against it. So, like, it helps the helplessness in that picture where you're like, listening to your neighbors, and you're like, why does everything disappear? It's like, oh, it's just people are in a room that I'm not in, making those choices.
Right.
So I guess, like, the next part is really just, like, getting the motivation to continue to, like, be active in doing what was happening in Dorchester and getting a train station there because you needed it in your neighborhood.
Right.
Or also on the flip side, like, moving a train station into the
Right.
suburban area. So, oh, this is really cool. This is
No,
really
thank you, thank you. I think one of the, like, I do hear that, and that's one of the things that's happening in the community. We've been working so hard, so long, so tired, people are losing hope. And we're losing hope because you're trying to solve an engineering problem. You know, a system, you're trying to fight a system as individuals or a group of individuals. And it's not possible. They're, like I said, they just turned off the water and they sit back and watch you starve. And when they turn off the water, then but then you're there doing, you know, advocating for this and advocating for that, then you're just wasting your time. I'm sorry to say. And you're internalizing and saying, oh, we're bad, we're not good, we're, you know, like you start hearing all this, you know, who are we and all this. We were very strong in the 50s and 60s. If you had allowed us to stay in place, we would be powerful just like the North End. And that's facts, that we can say. Facts. Big facts. Right? So I just feel like, you know, this gives direction. This helps to let people know, like, affordable housing, that is a big part. It's just like urban renewal. You put one building in a place, 17% of it goes in, and that's affordable. Also, you see, affordable housing is supposed to be flexible housing, because when you are on affordable housing, you really need it. Sometimes you need to go to your landlord and say, I need a couple more days. Right? It's not as though it's, you know, but then what happens to the buildings around the big development that has affordable housing? Those property values go up and those people get pushed out. So we're advocating for affordable housing, but without controls and other things, we're advocating for our own demise. And they'll sell it to you, squares and streets, and it's urban renewal. Urban renewal was a great thing. But it doesn't matter. That's all this smoke and mirrors. Are you going to be able to provide our spaces for business, enough spaces for business? Right? Because I can design a place and put one shop there, the point of entry to get in, how much money you have to get into that location is so high that you'll never be able to afford it. And only McDonald's would be able to afford that place. So I can design something, but you have business space. You don't know any better. You'll just be like, okay. So you need not only business space, you need enough business space. And then you need to have things that are going to bring in people into your community, like culture. Because we cannot do, nobody can do what North End does. No one can do what Chinatown does. No one. Right? So what do? Arts, music, dance, soul, rhythm. That's what we do. And don't worry, it's not just about that, because you still need a place, you need a location, you need light, you need the plumbers, everybody. So that's how it's built. With that, Chinatown and North End are built on food only. I think music is more complicated than food. Like you can eat anything. You can't listen to it. Right? So I know everyone's time I know it. 1 o'clock. Okay, so it's 1 o'clock now. Okay, so I want to thank everybody. We're going to be in Hyde Park next week. Please come. It's our grand finale. We're going to have youth there. There's going to be symposiums, workshops where we get to talk with individuals on different points. So I want to thank you all for supporting Boston Redlining. Thank you to the West End Museum. Which one's big, sir?
There you go. This is like supervisor, so it's the first one.
Or do you want me to do it?
I'm just a person very.
Do it manually, that way we have to send it, yes. In case we send it, it doesn't let us. It's interesting.
Barely do Instagram, yes. Okay. I don't post it on there, but I I'm like, wait.
In the same park. Madison Park, Madison Park. I just did that. Winifred Irish. That's right. Open the garden.
That's how they go to great resources. Is when they tell you that about the great resources. You got my card?
I think we're gonna rotate it about what anyway. Most people hate it. You can do that. So working together, I think it's very, very true.
Oh, you want to call the water right there. Big sister.
There are things that know about it.
Yeah, so in part of the
The lower right.
it was.
My son and I were down over the we brought like 8 there photographs, videos, documents, interviews. You know, and you know which one
I was gonna say, like, you know, we just need a little bit of shake and it's all going down.
I have an archive of photographs of mine. Actually, the shell has Many organizations. Like, they had like shots, 2 or 3 rows of them. So they showed that it's not just for home.
Yeah.
Third generation. Her mother was, mother gave the birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And her grandmother and the aunt. Settlement house. Where I first became that's my story. Yes.
I would say,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, that's true.
It is, we restored it. It's no story.
The idea was
When it's an absolute even though it's
During this process, this city is 400-500 years old. And the city will outlive us all. So it's no sin give us a few years. Because this opportunity is 35 years. It will work away because this was said. So my life goes back to now it's short. And it's simple. You get close. It's hard to see. It started around budgeting, but I think it has to everything. So that there is. And it's tedious, makes mostly down.
And she's freaking out. She gets me.
I know, right?
but we are way over, and it's really. So I made it national. Me too. Didn't even know. Oh, well, 2 hours. Okay, well, just call me. Okay. DM me, whatever. I don't really I was in, circle. And I moved out to.
So happy.
I was just, you know, oh, I'm like, you're really, no, like,
Girls that you were
I just remember you talking for 30 years.
Yeah, right. She got married. She's never been so right, right. I know what I was looking at. And she picked up my camera and she bam, she's still at it.
Thank you so much.
The new West End.
Over here. I can see what's going on over there. It's pretty and pink.
Started out like 45 years ago. No, but it's like.
Oh, it's Joe Robinson.
Since 1998.
Okay.
I wish I would have known. I didn't know.
What actually it is, just living history in the West End, because I came here with a truck, so and so it's very different, living on the tracks, very gritty.
No.
You know, questionable characters, and I'm like, that actually, you know, were my friends, but other people were like,
No.
so
I like lazy.
The Midwest Indians and other green, and the other green was to go and train tracks. And so, you know, I witnessed, I live in the West End place, right down the street. You could sit on a couch, up on the so when the train went down, and the tracks went down, I literally opened my window and, blasted my water from the hose that they were using to put dust in. And it was such a one weekend, people left here on Friday, So North Station,
You know,
one hundred Causeway was where the actual station started. All the way around here to Lavasser Street, all of that infrastructure is gone.
Over 100 years now.
Kids were confused, people were confused. I woke up that morning and was like, somebody was showing a thing right in my bedroom window, because suddenly we weren't understanding. So, I know it's a lot.
I mean, I've been back and forth all night.
So one person average majority.
Oh, the best story, thank you.
I was thinking.
The best story, the best West End story. One year, and then we were what?
Yeah.
I know. I know where that is.
Was, you showed up, it was, you know, they were so, you know, and the court staff, in the actual court, used to be, court street. The next one, the story is that this club, I don't know what's all there. Heard about this around the they left the location, marched down the Chamber Street, went to the courthouse, snatched the man out of the courthouse. Right, snatched him out of the courthouse and, you know, put him on some package. And that is second, your personal.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. I remember.
I can promise that. I know, it's not a big one. But it's gonna be great, but it's some, it's so like, yeah.
And, you're gonna do great.
All right, take care.
Most of his friends were white and Italian. I wish some would ever hear the whole West Side. Places that he couldn't go. So his family settled in Roxbury.
Thank you very much.
He credits individual Roxbury to raising his cars.
Yeah.
About
Well, that happened.
experiences of life.
Now, that was lost. Rely on that. If you come that way.
She's like, I'm
You have
talking
to
about
be
it.
ready.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, before, like, I said, symposium, we're bringing a lot of people. So like, yo, these communities from the Civil War to Civil Rights, like, we move it up a little, like, 100 years, like, cool.
Oh, because I was just. And, I was.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't want to do the little ones.
I guess if you have four.
What I would call up the hill mentality, that's a lot of fun. Want to keep it popular. It's around your stories and the terror that people have been. And I just.
Oh, yeah. There is.
we start now.
Okay.
There was a lottery, so I paid everything. I don't have to do it without eating. And my number
It's not that bus. That's not really. Great job. Great job.
or your credit check, or whatever.
And I'm just like, it's not very subtle. Then everybody starts like, I'm like, I was looking like, you sound like this. You're like, okay, don't worry. Yeah. Okay,
I know you do so.
I didn't really love the one that I was I'm like, no way. I wore them in. I was just
But I just, why am I standing here?
So, yeah, so what do you do?
Grow something at the Hancock. And I always have to say, I'm not very simple.
No, I just not know about anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right?
Hancock,
That goes
very
right.
smart, State House. Look, this guy was kind of.
That's where that land creates culture.
What is that? What is part of the You mean 5 towers and it just built up in the last 5 years?
Yeah. I guess because I travel, so I yeah. I love the
Yeah, but not know. I Hey there, having a good time in Champagne, this and that. But since a bunch of the money was there, the king, and the CEO of a big company, so he's not a big works. You know what I mean? But you have to see them. Then you know, okay, it's okay. But you know, the girls don't
about this. Even though
So if you're going to do this, they're offering, you always
just sit open the door.
That's what happens.
That's what you need, right? Yeah.
So the people-
We actually have one coming out, I think, very soon. Oh, I just like, she's not a great, I mean, it's, yeah, it's unusual, right? Yeah, that's so, they wanted to partner with us, and they were like, where's the right? Perfect. Stay left.
Right.
And I like that. And I don't know who anybody is.
Right.
I went to Mayor Williams, like, in the party, wanting to speak to pop-ups of politicians. We're like the only two people. I
Right,
see.
yeah, no, that's fine. Try to, yeah.
I know. So I'm like, look, I didn't want to spend any time, but you're the only one that I know here. That's not.
I know.
Big thing of water.
I was in a room with me, but I yeah, I would try to promote that to students. Actually, I think that's I also work as well. So yes, I have them like all really active. Okay. Like,
Because that's what I don't
like,
think. No, that is it.
People are like, what? You have a major science. I thought you were a model.
You start cleaning up.
Right, okay, that makes sense. And I didn't think about that. Yeah. That's why they're so like, they've never had.
Oh my God, I'm sure my car is already,
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, but that's the thing, it's a different experience. Yeah. But it's also hard.
Oh, yeah. To start the ball rolling. Yeah. Early 90s, yeah, early 90s. And so, and now, and now we have very little participation. Part of that was because
These are the people in my neighborhood.
I know, look at the boots.
Yeah, there's a lot.
How do you guys enjoy the, how do you guys?
Great. It was great. It was really great. It was really interesting. Thank you so much for putting this on. I appreciate it. I'm excited for more events.
All right, excellent. And the record winner, she's been
Yeah.
to the most, and I'm really proud. Thank you. You've been like learning a little and getting to see different parts. She went to Wally's, right? The oldest jazz club in the world.
Nice. Yeah, it's like you saying, like, it's hard because I think the it hurts.
Yeah.
All right, we're
Because
signing
I
out.
don't mind.